Hi! Welcome to Create Utopia, in which hosts Chicory and Zero muse over many issues in the style of so many modern millennials, all around the peaceful, flickering light of video games. We hope you enjoy it. Now on with the show. Today we are talking about gay marriage, woo! And Confederate flag being taken down over public and governmental land, also woo! And then straight on to depressing things with churches being burned and masculinity in video games and some other stuff, maybe Greece, and how terrible they're having it. Woohoo! Yeah!
And there was much rejoicing.
All around. Apparently, like, this was a thing. Everybody who was anybody on Facebook and the internet had, like, the little flags over their profile pictures and everything, and everybody was like, woo! I haven't done anything pro-gay marriage, but suddenly I'm all about it! Woohoo! But also, it's really good. It's really great. It is really great. Right, Zero?
It is great. It's good that gay marriage is finally a thing that other people will recognize as being relevant to equality.
Yeah. Yay!
Not previously something recognized as being obvious, important to equality either.
Yeah? I thought it was always, like, kind of recognized as being about sort of equality, as it was unequal. You know what I mean? Like, if some people can do it and other people can't do it, then it's not equal to it.
Well, that relies on the idea that, you know, some things should be equal. And a lot of people didn't think that.
Yeah. Well, some people are dumb, I guess.
Yes, I would agree.
That's kind of your line, right? Usually I'm the one
Yes.
that's like, why are people dumb? And you're like, some people are just dumb.
I am normally that person. Yes, absolutely.
Ugh.
I am very much the people are dumb.
How long do you
And
think
it's
we can
very
go from
unfortunate.
saying just gay married to just, they got married, they didn't get gay married, they just are married, yay!
Wouldn't that be nice? Like, the ability to say, oh, they got married, and not have to append the gay label onto it. Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon,
would
that
be-
would be really nice.
Pretty great if we could just recognize humans as being humans. Ah, intruders detected.
Oh no! Zero! Really quick! I think
Yeah.
I interrupted you before we could talk about the video game and stuff. Do you want to talk about it real quick?
What do you want to talk about? Okay, you are jumping all over the place.
I
Let's
drank
simmer
way
down
too
a
much
bit.
energy drink, and now thinking is hard. Thinking is really hard.
Okay, what would you like to talk about first?
What video game are you playing this time? What is our video game plan of the day?
Well, I was playing Faster Than Light, but now everyone is dying, for which I blame you mostly.
Probably fair. We
yes.
still have the slug.
We do still have the slug, and he's become a better pilot, like his father. Sluggin. Probably not actually his father's name. It's okay, we just lost... Wow, you! It'll be fine.
I'm dead in the game. That's not fun.
Yeah.
Where's the cloning device? Clone me back.
Different game. So today we're going to be playing Faster Than Light, and probably a couple games of it based on how this one is going, and then we're going to be playing some Papers, Please later, if we get around to it.
Woo! Papers, please. I'm super
Because
sad.
Chicory is feeling unenergetic, and watching me fail at things makes her feel better.
It sounds harsh when you say it like that, but I can't say it isn't true. Mostly because
Honesty is important.
I expect you to do so well, and so when you're not doing well, it's surprising, and that's kind of exciting. It's exciting, Zero.
I'm glad failure can be exciting to you.
Well, not all failure, just specifically you
Just
failing
yours.
it.
You. When you suck, it's awesome to me.
You don't suck at anything else, you just suck playing these video games.
That's so not true.
Okay.
That's just factually inaccurate.
Anyway, so it is... I feel like it's weird, the Supreme Court, like, shortening thing. It sounds kind of SCOTUS. You know what I mean? It doesn't. If I was 15, I would make jokes about that, but I'm not, so I won't. Anyway,
No, go it. Don't stop on my account.
I'm stopping on my account. It's not about you, Zero.
Oh, okay, then stop.
Okay. I was reading this really funny webcomic, and it's called SatW comic, so Scandinavia in the World, and I thought that they're not American, and their take on it is really funny because marriage equality has been a thing in like a lot of other countries for a while now, and suddenly America can do it, and all of the internet was taken over, as I guess America kind of does, with like, woo, gay marriage, yeah, gay marriage, it's legal here. That means that the problem has basically been taken care of and we don't have to worry about it anymore. Aren't I cool and like supportive with all my rainbow stuff? Yay! I just thought it was kind of funny. That it was like,
yeah,
this is how everybody kind of reacted to it. Everybody was like, for 3 days, yeah, gay marriage. Everybody not in the US is like, way to go, US, I guess.
Much like so many of our issues, it's like, way to joy. Well, that's not even fair. There are lots of places around the world that are not so good on the gay marriage front. So,
or on just the
it's not entirely fair.
Front. You know, as you can like be arrested for it in Russia and be killed for it in some places in Africa.
Yeah, so we are doing a good job of, I guess, being progressive.
Yeah, it just feels like it's a little overdone, as though the issue is just can be closed now because it's okay in America. So, I don't know, I think that's kind of silly.
Well, Americans are known for being very America-centric.
Yeah, we are.
It's kind of our thing.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I don't know. We'll come back to that, I guess. Oh, no, we won't come back to that, but I don't know what else to add to it. It's just, America's very American-centric. I think a lot of countries are their own country-centric.
So do you actually have anything to say about the decision besides cheering? I'm really curious about this now.
You know? Oh,
it doesn't affect you that much. You're already married.
I'm already straight married.
Yeah. Which is kind of the point, is that this, if you are straight married, this decision doesn't actually affect you, and you have lost nothing.
Oh, you know how it affects me? Now I can start pestering. I've been pestering some of my straight couple friends to get married, and now I can start pestering my gay couple friends to get married. I can be that, like, older friend.
You can be a worse person. Got it. I'm glad that the struggle has empowered you to be such.
Yeah. I don't know. It just is... It doesn't have anything to do with me. I didn't change my profile picture. I think it's really nice that now my friends can go visit each other in, like, the hospital and stuff, and that they can inherit each other's things or whatever. I guess, like, what I'm confused about is that some people are like, well, oh, here's, like, where I was going with this. Some people are like, I'm so upset with marriage being for everybody now, that I just want to take marriage off the table entirely. Which I'm like, well, I feel like there's power behind the words of, like, marriage. If you go into a hospital and you're like, this is my husband, I need to see them, then people will be like, oh, you know, I understand what's going on here, you know? Not saying that they couldn't still be assholes, but it's more instantly recognizable, I guess.
Yeah, that's, to me, kind of the problem. If you wanted marriage... essentially, a lot of these folks are trying to have it both ways. They're saying, we want marriage to be a religious thing, but in this country we have a separation of church and state, and so if you make marriage a religious thing, then you shouldn't get any benefits for being married. But they're like, no, we want benefits too.
Well, but churches have always kind of wanted those benefits, you know what I mean? Like, they're tax exempt and stuff like that.
Right.
So... I don't know, I think that's par for the course with a lot of church stuff. I'm not super surprised by it. They're running true to form.
This is all very par for the course for you? This is just how you see religion? Oh my god.
What?
Go away, everybody. We are being continually attacked when we go from place to place. I cannot
Run away!
get us
Run
out
away!
of being ridiculously attacked everywhere.
This is why we should always have the engineer robot type people, because then we can just not have any air in our ship, and so people can't board us, and people can't start our place on fire.
It's true. I would rather we just find one safe sector, but this may be the realm we die in.
No!
You're mine.
Zero, don't die! Don't let us die, Zero!
I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Our hull looks like it's almost gone.
Oh yeah, we're gonna probably die.
And then we'll all just be cast adrift in space with our bodies to freeze. Maybe.
And they'll take our stuff for scrap. There we go. We can start a new game. We'll just restart.
Yay!
Yeah, the thing about it that's weird about people changing their profile pics to be the rainbow flag is that the rainbow flag is pride in that you are gay. Yeah. There was already a symbol if you were straight but an ally to gay people, which is the pink triangle, which showed you were an ally.
Really?
Yes, there is a symbol that says I am an ally of gay people, but I am not gay.
Super confused. I thought the pink triangle was if you were gay.
As far as I know, the pink triangle is what you always put on "This is a safe place," whereas the pride flag is pride, like the name.
Yeah, like.
It's not to say that gay people can't also be allies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Which, like they should be. And there has been a lot of other talk about how cis gay people have not been allies to, like, other, like, trans people.
I don't know if I sent you the article. Maybe you sent me the article about the people who say equality for everyone and then go on their Grindr profiles with no blacks, no Asians, no femmes.
Yeah. Yeah. All of that.
Yeah.
So I guess you can be both. You don't have to be either, I guess. I don't know. This is another thing where people aren't making churches marry other people that they don't want to get married, right?
That is the long-running argument. Nobody is forcing you to get gay married. You are in no way required to get gay married. Your marriage doesn't change.
No, there's been very, very little change. Actually, my friends put up this funny picture where they're like, they're joking about how they're going on a date to save their crumbling marriage. They're really solidly married from the ruling on gay marriage and stuff like that. And I thought it was cheeky and funny, but sort of whatever. Where was I going with this?
I don't know. I'm never quite sure. So often it's very confusing.
Well, now you know how I feel, I guess, all of the time.
You don't know where you're going either? That seems like a problem.
It's like when you're driving in a bumper car thing, you don't know really where you're going, but you have some goals of like bumping into things and doing things. I don't know.
I know where I'm going in bumper cars. What kind of bumper cars do you drive?
I haven't driven bumper cars ever.
What? Why did you make that comparison?
It's just what they look like they're doing.
I don't even understand the choices you just made. Why did you make an analogy to a thing you know you don't understand?
Reasons? I don't know.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
I think I had a last thing to say about the ruling, but now I don't remember what it was. I interrupted myself, Zero. Why did you let me do that?
No, carry on. I'm sure it's very important.
Anyway, let's just skip right on to the Confederate flag. The other sort of kind of good news thing, which is that the Confederate flag came down in a bunch of the states that were flying it, right?
Not all of them, but a lot of them, yes. The Confederate flag specifically came down in South Carolina, I believe, and not just because Bree Newsom took it down.
Why did they come down?
Because people voted for them, or people just took them down. In South Carolina, the problem was that they'd put it into law, this can't be taken down unless a bunch of our people decide to take it down. Like, you had to vote on it because so many people disliked it, which makes it weird that you'd keep it up.
Yeah.
So many people dislike this thing, we had to write it into law. One person is not allowed to just take it down.
Well, that's the thing. I was trying to think, like, what the reaction would be if I saw somebody in California flying the... I don't almost even want to call it the Confederate flag because...
It's not?
Like, the Confederate flag, of the time of the Confederacy was pretty different. But any of the southern non-state flags, Confederate-type flags, if they had that as like a bumper sticker or something, I don't think it would go over well anywhere other than the South.
Well, apparently they did a survey recently and found that there's a very large racial divide on people who think the flag is about heritage, and it's mostly white people think it's not racist.
I think that's because white people didn't have to do any other research other than what they were taught in high schools. And in high school, it's not made like abundantly clear that it is racist. You know what I mean? Like, I was a pretty average high school student when I was in high school, and I passed the classes. I did okay. I think I got B's or something in history. And I had no idea. I graduated high school, you know, really honestly believing that the North was invading the South, and that, you know, we had basically overtook them, and that it was about loss of property. And like the line that the property that they were losing was freaking slaves was not made that abundantly clear. And when you're at high school and you're really thinking about getting laid and things like that, usually.
Were you?
Well, even I was.
This story seems suspicious.
Really, well, probably not just getting laid, but I was probably like writing bad poetry in history class when I wasn't like taking bullshit notes and things. That I didn't think about it until I was like taking another US history class in college, and they're like, yeah, things were really, really different, and reading first-hand accounts and things like that. And it was interesting when it was taught by somebody that wasn't legitimately the wrestling coach, which it legitimately was in our high school that we both went to. The history teacher was the wrestling coach. He just was like, okay, copy down these notes, and if you copy them down, you'll pass the test. And it was super really lame. I mean, I'm sure not all public schools are that way, but certainly ours was. And it seems like a lot of the books for high school history do not make these things abundantly clear. And it feels like they're lying. They're like legitimately lying to students by not adding these things in.
Well, so most of the textbooks in this country are produced in Texas.
Yeah.
I have to demand one joins my crew? I can't release all of them? I guess I'll demand the Rockman join us then.
Really? He doesn't have to. I mean, like, who would be the happiest? I feel like you should have asked for volunteers instead of...
I was not given that choice. Or I would have.
This is the... sometimes video games, they want to be, like, fair, but they take away your play style by doing these kinds of things. By only giving you, like, a certain number. By not having all of the actual options available. Like, you could have been like, screw you guys, I'm just gonna kill you all. You know, blah, blah, blah.
I actually had that option earlier, kinda.
Oh, really? Well...
Not in that way specifically, though. A much reduced version of that.
Anyway, it would have been nice if they had given you the option to just release all of them, or ask them what
Yeah,
they
I was surprised
blah,
I didn't
blah,
get the option to release all of them. It's unfortunate. It's what I would have done.
I think I would have asked if anyone had wanted to join, you know, and then maybe it would have been like a random roll if any one or two or none of them or all of them wanted to join your crew.
Attacking pirates. We're like the good guy crew this time.
Yeah! Woohoo! Okay, so history books written in Texas seems like a strange concept.
Yeah, and so because
like
Texas is such a huge market, what they write in their history books tends to go to the whole country, and as a result, we get a lot of really biased history books.
Which seems bad.
Based on what
very,
Texas
very
believes.
bad.
Well, it's definitely a flaw of the system. Certainly not good.
What do you think it would be like if books were written out of San Francisco or New York?
A very different point of view, for sure. What is on fire?
What if it was like they were written, there's all of the fire! Get it out, get it out, get it out!
Yep, I'm on it.
Fire, 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 fire! Okay, good. What do you think it would be like if they were written out of different parts of the country in general, you know? You know what I mean? Like if there was more than just one state working on it.
Well, a lot of states work on it, but Texas is just the biggest market, so they tend to, like... California also has a lot of effect on our history books. But California is not as homogenous as perhaps you want to make it sound. There's lots of other areas of California. Basically, if you ever...
one of the reasons I like living in California. It's not homogenous.
If you ever hear, well, there's Austin in Texas. It's not fair to say Texas is entirely homogenous.
That's true. That's very true, Zero.
Yeah.
Being reductionist is not right. Where are you going with this?
Well, I keep trying to say that Texas has a lot of influence on what we get taught in school, and any major market has a lot of influence. And as a result, that's kind of what a lot of these programs like No Child Left Behind were trying to fix, even if they went about it in a ham-handed and really bad, not so thoughtful way, was by forcing national educational standards, you get rid of those factionalists that can then teach what they want. Because everyone has to learn the same thing instead of being forced into it by market pressures.
It seems like a good thing on paper when you say it like that.
Well, it was implemented so that people basically had to teach to a test, which is always a terrible idea, because tests can't cover everything and it leaves no... The states are different. You need to learn different things. The whole point of our country is that we do cool things with diversity, but we also need to have a basic set of things that everyone in this country should know to be part of the country. And the problem is that we all disagree on what that basic set of things is. Diversity is both a plus and a minus.
Hey!
It's not really a minus, it just makes things more difficult.
Well, yeah, that's the minus, is it's like people are lazy and it makes things harder. So yeah, I still think it's like lying to kids that that's not part of, even like what goes on the test, that it's just how racist the Confederacy really was. And also some of the arguments for the Confederacy. You know what I mean? About like well, why would you beat a slave if it's something that you had to like buy and pay for? It's like, you know, if you beat up like a tractor that's like, you know, working for you. Like, it doesn't make any sense. As though people don't also not take care of tractors or cars or whatever tool that you're like working for or working with. And also comparing a human being to a tractor is weird to me.
That argument by itself makes the point of what happens when you reduce human beings to just an implement, is that you don't think of them as a thing that can be hurt. No, you killed my guy. How dare you?
I killed a guy?
No, I think your husband just died.
I think he did. We still have Zero, Chicory, Brother, and Ariel.
Yep. Ariel's the new guy.
Oh! Is Ariel a boy name or just a girl name?
I don't know how to tell with the rock people.
Maybe it's just an it. We'll call it an it.
Yeah.
Neutral.
Ariel is a neutral name.
But overall, I'm glad that people are like at least having some of the conversation of what's up with the Confederate flag? Is it saying what we want it to say? Blah, blah, blah. Which is, hey, if you want to be racist and you want to be proud of that, then it's the flag for you.
Yes?
I don't think that most people want to think about it that way, though.
No, they almost certainly do not. Alright, so in an attempt to generate you with at least some enthusiasm for saying about anything, do you want to change topic? Because you so far seem to have picked topics you don't actually want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
You've got like, no, I'm calling you out.
Really? I thought I had some energy, a little energy.
Okay, so let's try to have we'll try to have a dialogue going about stuff. So you were taught bad things in school. What was that like as you got into college beyond just that really sucks and it was bad? A lot of this, I first learned about a lot of the Confederate War stuff when we took a family trip to Virginia and got to go to all these monuments that are just basically lying to you. And then when I was older, I saw one of our great cinema classics, quote unquote, Gone with the Wind, which is a terrible movie and really needs to stop being called a cinema classic. I get that it pioneered a lot of the techniques, but so did Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
Yes, you can invent cinema techniques and still be racist, and the biggest problem is that we assume that to be racist, you have to be really upfront and outright racist, and that racism is not a casual thing that gets built up over a very long period of time based around continually reinforced attitudes that occur over and over again and then cause harm to our society. Which, granted, we've talked about before and have been talking about a lot recently because of what's in the news, but it bears repeating that racism is in your recurring actions. If you see things that continually happen to the same segment of people and you assume that they are just that way because they are that way or because it is the victim's fault, then you are being racist.
Yeah. I think that that's like why I felt so betrayed. Basically, I felt betrayed by my educational system and by even sort of my parents, because a lot of people that have been close to me and that helped to raise me would take me to these similar things like in the South Zero, and then they'd be like, oh, here's the sign, placard, placard, placard. And they wouldn't be like, let's think deeper about this placard. Let's really take this apart and blah, blah, blah. And when you're like a kid, I was probably much more interested in, I don't even know, how interesting the horses and like the statues looked, or like blah, blah, blah. Just non-consequential things, because it didn't have to have consequence to me, because A, it was in the past, B, I didn't live in the South, and C, it wasn't my quote-unquote history, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't still like affecting me. And so it just felt totally, totally betrayed, because like I was doing things, or have been taught my whole life, things that hurt people. And I don't think that that's super cool. That's like a bad thing. And so it just makes me feel betrayed, basically. That's how it feels. That's my why this matters to me. It just feels like I was lied to. I think I said that already.
Yeah. Essentially, you were definitely misled.
Yeah. And so reading about this in college and talking about with you, that's where I'm continually like surprised, because I spent like the first, I don't know, like maybe 20 years of my life thinking these ways. And because nobody ever corrected me, and nobody had these conversations with me, and it wasn't deemed like an okay use of my time, or this was already the way that people were talking to me about these things already thought about it. So it was the message that was being passed down.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons we started this, and one of the big issues is that you were willing to change how you thought about a thing. You didn't get stuck on it. There was no sense that it had been integrated into your core identity, and after 20 years you were suddenly getting new information. But that happens a lot. People take a thing and they integrate it into their core identity, and they're like, hey, I am this thing. This thing is very important to me. And then they get a sense that that thing may be wrong. Like if you've based your entire core identity on being, say, a Southern belle or something, that in and of itself is harmless, but then you associate the Southern belle with being a plantation owner, and then you find out that, oh, plantation owners, even the good plantation owners, treated their slaves like property. If my car has a problem, I replace the part in my car. I don't agonize. When my brake pads wear out on my motorcycle, I don't agonize over replacing my brake pads. I go and I pay money and I replace my brake pads because it's safer. Slaves were like that. If you had a slave who injured themselves on the farm, like something big, say you had someone who was lifting something heavy and through no abuse tore their ACL, then you get rid of that slave. You trade them away for like two younger or you have your good slave who tore an ACL and is no longer useful, can't even walk, and someone has a couple troublemaker slaves they're trying to get rid of. You trade your torn ACL slave for two troublemaker slaves, and now, you know, that other guy says, well, the only way to get these slaves to work is to beat them, and all of a sudden, you have your overseer beating your slaves because that's the only way you know. And it's not because you're bringing a hammer to a $20,000 tractor. It's because you think this is how I get the tool to work. It doesn't hurt a hammer to hit. It doesn't hurt a nail to hit a nail with a hammer. You just think that's how a nail works. There is no kinder and gentler way to use a nail. And that's the mentality. These are tools, and sometimes the way you make your tool work is by being violent to it. A hammer is a violent tool. An axe is a violent tool. You slam it into things.
But when you're identifying as like a Southern belle, or as even like an American, and then you find out that America has done bad things, like suddenly that's very jarring. And you don't want to think about it. It's not easy to think about America taking over Hawaii or like the Philippines or things like that, because you're like, America is all about democracy, blah, blah, blah. It would never do something like that, because I would never do something like that, and I'm American. Is that where you're going with this? I'm sorry, I'm trying to like tie it
No, that's a different topic. It's not untrue. I was responding to your statement, you wouldn't take a hammer to a tractor, and I'm like, yeah, but slaves weren't a $20,000 tractor. They were a really nice drill, and you're still going to be pounding a drill into things.
I thought you were going somewhere with the Southern Belle comment, that when you identify as a Southern Belle, the ideology of them is basically being a slave owner on like a plantation, and that's bad, and people want to think of themselves as good people. And so when you're identifying as something that, seriously had issues, then suddenly you're like, maybe I seriously have issues. Ah, run away.
Yes, you open your... We'll use the one you were going. Yes, everyone has the potential to be a bad person.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are just bad people.
But I think people want to think of themselves as a good person. So when they're faced with the concept that they might not be being a good person, it's very hard for them to deal with that. Which isn't an excuse. It just means that it's like, it makes people like run away. That's not okay.
I think you're going somewhere with this thought, so I'm just going to let you run with it.
Oh no, that was the end of my thought, sorry. It's not okay to like run away from when people are pointing out that maybe you're not a good person.
Right. People do it all the time. People also run away from the idea that they might not be a good person even if they are a good person. It's... my ancestors might have done something bad, therefore I have the potential to have done something bad, and they run away from that idea, which is to me a bit of a, like, that's the really interesting one. My ancestors might have been bad, which means I genetically could be bad, and I don't like that idea, so I'm going to say, how dare you insult my ancestors like that?
Yeah. Especially for being part of a religion that's not about ancestor worship.
Well, I suppose. Christianity in the United States is really interesting. Look at all the Republican presidential candidates who are trying to... all the Catholics trying to disavow the Pope because the Pope disagreed with them. And I'm just thinking, that's not how Catholicism works. You don't get to pick and choose what parts... what Pope... what... like, when the Pope says something, you don't get to just disagree with it because it doesn't fit your ideology.
Hey, you could, and then you could, like, put up some proclamations and blah, 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 and, like, start your own church.
I feel like the Pope is going to frown.
But then you can't be Catholic anymore.
Yeah, you don't... That's kind of what I'm saying, is when you do that, you stop being Catholic.
It's true. Being Catholic means that you kind of have to listen to the Pope.
Yeah, yeah. The Pope is kind of a big deal in Catholicism.
Do we want to take this opportunity talking about churches and things like that to segue straight into burning down churches? And specifically black churches, and what the heck?
Is that the segue you want to make?
Yes.
Alright, let's go for it.
It's not the most smooth segue, okay? I'm not a good segue writer / driver. I just go for it. Just commit wholeheartedly into running into a wall.
You committed to that segue, and I, for one, approve of the level of commitment you've shown.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Go for it. Churches are burning down in the South. Churches burn down a lot sometimes, but this is a lot of churches burning down, all within a suspiciously close time period. Run with it. What are your thoughts?
Just that. I mean, like... and it's not just churches. It's a specific type of community of churches, which is like black churches. Like if it was Vietnamese churches and Chinese churches and white people churches and Catholic churches and blah 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 churches, then that would be something else. That would be sort of like maybe Christianity is coming under attack, because that would be a bigger umbrella of churches burning down. But it's not. It's pretty specifically just black community churches.
Yeah. And
yeah, you're right. Like churches do burn down from time to time, and lightning can strike churches from time to time. But this seems like even if one of them was freaking lightning and not the like white lightning kind of thing, but real lightning.
What does that mean? Like, do you assume it was moonshine? That's what white lightning means to me.
Oh, white lightning? I thought it meant like it was a Ku Klux Klan reference.
I could see that. I just normally call that the KKK, but yours is good too.
Oh, but see, there's like a lightning tie-in together.
I see what you were going for.
Okay, well, then you see it in, I will keep going. Where was I going with this?
I didn't see
down. Even if it was lightning, That's still 7 churches in like 10 days, which is... That's a coincidence that's happening a little too often, you know?
1 is a random occurrence, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is enemy action.
Yeah. And we're well beyond 3.
Undeniably enemy action at this point.
Also, I can't believe... I was reading this thing. I think I sent it to you. Somebody wrote this.
Some human wrote this thing.
Basically, it was like Dylan Roof, the guy that shot the people, 9 people in church.
The shooter. The alleged shooter.
The shooter. The alleged shooter, thank you, was like, I wanted to start a race war. And people are like, well, he failed because black people aren't rioting in South Carolina so much. But what they're not paying attention to is he wasn't talking about starting a war, like making people angry in like the black community. He wanted to lead as an example to other white people. And that seems like it's sort of what is happening with these churches burning down.
I don't think he necessarily thought it through that well, but at the same time, yeah, he pretty clearly wanted to start a fight, and it doesn't matter. So remember when everyone was talking about forgiveness and how you should forgive all these people and all that stuff? It doesn't matter if only one half forgives. At this point, we are well beyond the point where someone is attacking black churches. You can attempt to blame that on black people as if it's somehow their fault. And there was one article I saw this week that essentially said, yeah, it's some sort of response. And it's like, how often is it a response when the victim gets attacked again?
Yeah. But
I guess they thought that was a thing. The victim, if the victim is attacked, it's a response.
It is a response. I mean, like, it's a response by the aggressor, maybe. Or crazy conspiracy. I'm sure in, like, 2 years, like, there will be crazy conspiracy theorists that are like, they were doing it to themselves in hopes of gaining more notoriety or, like...
Oh, yeah.
Getting, like, a mob mentality.
Someone is going to blame the Black Lives Matter for this eventually.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a matter of time, unfortunately.
You heard it here first.
You heard it? Calling it?
Yeah, I'm super calling it. I don't know who it's going to be. Somebody without a soul. Well, I shouldn't say that because I don't believe in souls, but somebody with a
so it could be anyone!
Ah! Ah! But yeah, how much, like, news coverage has this been getting, do you think?
Not much. It's been kind of on the front page of a few places, but I would say insufficient news coverage.
For, like, the amount of stuff that... For the number of times that this has sort of happened.
Yeah.
How many times... As of recording, today's July 3rd, right?
Yes.
How many churches have been burned down, Cyril?
I know at least 7 last time I checked. That doesn't mean it's all of them, though.
I thought it was 8. Maybe I heard something wrong or something.
If you think it's 8, maybe it's 8. This seems like something you could have looked up before we started the episode when you were making the outline. It had a definite number there. I'm just going to say.
Probably, but I'm terrible. I didn't do it.
So, major news organizations, not the only ones not paying fully attention to this.
Yeah. But yeah, so major news articles sort of being weird about that. I think that that's really where I was going with this, is like, that's my end line right there, is that who burns down churches?
Terrorists do.
I don't know. Terrorists do.
That's kind of the big point.
Have the churches, like, been, I don't even know, in session when they were burned down?
No, I think they've mostly been burned down out of session, however you want to call it.
I don't know what the church term is for that.
Well, when they're closed. Churches have been burned down when no one's in them, mostly.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, at least.
So it's just, like, property damage and, like, ideology?
Yeah, but it's a lot of property damage. I mean, I think it's important to note that property damage is not free, and no. I'm not entirely sure. I guess the honest thing is, I'm not... there was a Muslim community down in the South that raised a lot of money to help repair these churches, but at the same time, it's not cheap to repair a building that gets burned down.
No, not at all. You have to, like, tear down parts of it and redo it. I'm just glad that no one has gotten hurt so far.
Yeah, and that is small victories, I guess.
Yeah.
In a bad situation.
Well, it means that, like, they're willing, whoever is doing this is willing to send the message of, I don't like these communities, I think that they shouldn't be here, but not willing to, like, take human lives.
Or they just don't want to get caught. I mean, there's a reason why so many cross burnings occurred at night. It makes it a lot harder to get caught.
I guess I hadn't thought about that. I would be a terrible criminal, Zero.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm glad no one's gotten hurt. But still, who burns down a church?
Terrorists, like I said.
Anyways?
The people burning down churches in this country and shooting up churches are no different than ISIS and Al Qaeda, and a lot of the times when people want to say all Muslims act like this, they then on the same side don't want to say all Christians act like this because they think that would be ridiculous, but it's the same argument.
Yeah, I hear that. Sorry, I was reading the little blip about we snuck up on these guys on our video game. Are you gonna attack them or trade with them?
Well, I'm attacking them because they attacked me first.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's how we do it in this game.
Is it ever an option? Is it ever an option to just trade with them?
Yeah, sometimes. Oh, no, you don't.
Okay.
Did you want to talk about violence in video games?
Yes, I did. That was where I was going with this. I was trying to think of a clumsy segue, and you beat me to it.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to beat you to a clumsy segue.
We try. Yeah, I don't know. I love video games. And I like good writing, and it seems and good game mechanics. Mm-hmm. And it seems like so many video games just rely on the same concept of, well, obviously you're going to be beating people up because that's how we do things here.
USA.
Woohoo! But I don't think that that's always the best way. I certainly wish that you could do things without having to do that, without having the option of releasing everybody or asking their opinions. It seems like it would have been a couple extra lines maybe, and one more mechanic. Small, but not that big of a deal. They didn't even give you the option. I think that, as games become more and more realistic, in how we can play the games and how we think about the games and how they're, really, really good graphics and things like that, maybe things will be able to change because computers can be strong enough not just to have 4 or 5 different lines for each character, but more and more options can be dealt with.
Yeah.
Processing power and all that.
Well, and
memory
for
space.
example, when we play games like Democracy 3 or Long Live the Queen has a lot of violence, Papers, Please, those are definitely games. Papers, Please has violence in it too, but it's not the main mechanic in any way.
No, and it's I think Papers, Please has the threat of violence, but we don't see it very often. No, you know what I mean? When you send people to prison and stuff like that, it's that they're not going to be taken care of well. I think it's implied. In
later levels, you get the ability to actually shoot people. Although you do get a tranquilizer gun versus a rifle. Okay. But
that's cool.
Yeah, you definitely you get to be violent in Papers, Please in later levels.
I didn't know that. I haven't gotten that far in the game.
Yeah, you get a rifle and stuff. But one of my favorite games is Rock Band. It's one of the games I still play, and Rock Band has no violence in it. It's not a violent game.
It's just about playing music, right?
And it's not a it's definitely not a casual game either. And that was one of the things that article talked about, is a lot of the time if you play a non-violent game, they just call you a casual gamer. Papers, Please is also not a casual game. That's fairly hardcore. Monaco has some violence in it, but violence is not really the main mechanic. Sneaking is. Puzzle games are non-violent games.
Fez. They talk about that, but those are
I haven't actually played
you're
Fez.
Getting again to where they're well, that's not a game,
Tetris is so a game. I don't think you can be a gamer and not acknowledge that Tetris is a game.
I was thinking of Fez.
Yeah, I haven't actually played Fez. I can't talk about it.
I played a couple hours of it. I thought it was really fun and super cute, but really, really hard.
Yeah, the idea that violence has to be your main mechanic is wrong-headed. There are always going to be people who enjoy violence as a mechanic, but racing games as well. I like racing games. Racing
Well, I was
games
thinking
don't
about
often have violence in them, at least not as an encouraged mechanic.
you can still be violent though. Like we were playing Road Redemption, that's still violent.
Well,
Still kind of a racing game.
that is a
Or
battle
even
racer. Battle racers are different.
what about Mario Kart? Mario Kart be a battle racer?
Yes. Mario Kart is the battle racer. It basically invented the genre.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. It's Mario Kart.
I think I like a lot of the tone of that article. How masculine fragility is limiting innovation in games is what like the title is, and it's like I like being violent in video games. I really like first person shooters. I like Borderlands, and I like Skyrim, and I like all of these other things, Halo, which are classic, violent video games. I just don't like being limited to it. I love that there's new games coming out like Fez or Journey or whatever that you don't have to be violent in.
Well, those games have always been there, like I said. The problem is that violent video games sell, and they're kind of easy to make.
Well, everything's already in place for them. Like, everybody already knows. There's already words to describe them. There's already the concept of a first-person shooter.
Right.
But
and first-person shooters were Doom and stuff, but they haven't been necessarily... A first-person shooter is not required to be a game. Like, there's no rule that says you have to make every game a first-person shooter. People make a lot of them, and they sell, which is why people make a lot of them. But the problem is the innovation question. There's no reason why you couldn't, with current games, make a game where you actually had choices, and that's what Deus Ex has always tried to advertise. But Deus Ex still puts you in required boss fights. One of the things that has always driven me crazy about the Assassin's Creed series is that you don't have to be sneaky to beat those games. And it drives me crazy because I want to be sneaky. And in the first game especially, they locked you in on the final mission where you had to fight your way through a box canyon, and I spent that whole mission thinking, well, there are walls right there. Why don't I just climb up these walls? And, why don't I just climb up these walls and sneak like an assassin?
it's like if you have a really, really crappy GM in role-playing games, and you're like, hey, I have all this equipment that I can use. I have like grappling hooks and blah, blah, blah. And I have put character points into climbing and stuff, and then they're like, nope, you have to do this. Like, if a GM does that, or it's happened to me, when that happened to me, I was like, you are being a terrible storyteller, not being able to bend around your player once. And I get that in the past, maybe there was, you wanted to have Doom or something like that, it wasn't built around that kind of thing. But I think in games like Skyrim or oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of what my husband is playing right now. Has he talked to you about the video game that he's playing right now?
You thinking of Far Cry?
Yeah, Far Cry, I think. That it's set up, you should be able to have a way to like talk your way out of problems.
Which you can do in Fallout.
Not there. Can you?
In a lot of
you could like travel to place.
In a lot of the main questline quests, if your speech skill is high enough, or sometimes your science skill or other various social skills, you can talk your way out of problems. In the first Fallout game, you can actually, not first. So we'll say, let's say in Fallout 3, which more people might have played, you can
I haven't played
talk the big evil computer into shutting itself off.
For real?
Yeah, if your speech skill is high enough.
I gotta go do this again. But it's still like, in those games, the world is still very trying to kill you, which I get. I mean, like, worlds can be really tough, and I think that that's sort of the allure to a lot of these things, is always sort of putting you on edge in a way that I think a lot of people's experience is not. Like, I don't walk down the street in my neighborhood and fear being shot.
Some people do, though, in fairness.
Some people do. Those people might not be video game players.
I think a lot of them are video game players. A lot of people complain about, say, evil black neighborhoods and the fear thereof, and talk about, there's an entry permit for 2 days, and then they talk about how, but these poor people, why is everyone buying an Xbox? Because sometimes you want to have a problem that you can actually solve. And that's important to keep in mind. If violence is the thing you experience every day, you kind of want to have a problem you can actually solve sometimes.
I think that that's fair, just as like a concept of why video games are so appealing to so many people. Is it's like, hey, how are you going to deal with like having a mediocre or crappy job? Even if you live in a good neighborhood, then, or you're going to well, not even going to school, but doing things where it seems like there's no answer. Having a place that you're leveling up, you have very direct, here's like the objective, here's how you get to the objective, blah, blah, blah. Like that's a huge appeal to these kinds of video games. Violence is just the easiest thing to do that with sometimes. And it's like harder to come up with different ways to get over that if you're not just going to punch through the problem.
Yes, non-violent solutions are difficult. Violent solutions are... Oh, what did I miss? Incorrect purpose response. Okay, fine, whatever.
Incorrect. Oh! You have interesting face.
So you were...
I have nothing to say.
You were talking about violence in video games?
Yeah, I guess like what's weird is that it's like this article is arguing that because casual games and casual gamers, like it says games with women majority audiences, women majority casts, and women majority development teams are frequently lumped in with this kind of critique that it's like a casual game or something. Is like, it's like almost saying that it doesn't count as a game, which I feel is not right somehow. It's demeaning, and it doesn't need to be that way.
Well,
like a video game is a video game.
Gamers are a tribe. We've talked about this. And often they want their tribe to be exclusive. They feel like the more people in the tribe, the less special they are for being there, and they want to be special. And so they try to find any way to keep other people down. And one of the ways they do that is by finding ways to exclude people. One of which is saying, the game you play doesn't count because it's too casual. You look like you're having too much fun and it's not hard enough, so we don't want to count your game.
Isn't that what people said about Rock Band? Like when Rock Band first came out, they're like, stop having fun!
People
You're not actually playing instruments, how dare you?
It's like, I play first-person shooters all day, but you're playing Guitar Hero. Why don't you go get a real guitar? It's like, why don't you go get a real gun? Go to a shooting range. Oh wait, because one's a game.
Yeah. As somebody that I am legitimately a casual gamer. Like, I don't play video games more than like a couple hours a week. It's fun. I like it. It doesn't mean that I don't play video games. I don't know really where to go with this. It's frustrating, I think, that girls get lumped in with this casual thing, even when there's girls that are definitely not casual. And it's just weird that like masculinity is tied in with like being violent. Gamers want to be seen as masculine because masculine is a good thing, and so they're like, well, violence is masculine, so we have to be violent.
Well, so to begin with, I think your article is a little bit wrong because it takes a combative viewpoint from the beginning and then doesn't really ever...
This is your article. You sent it to me.
Well, I think the article we're talking about has some errors, and the direction that you're approaching it is not entirely correct because there's lots of innovation in the game industry.
Mm-hmm.
But...
Yay!
Companies want to make money, and you might make money by taking a risk, but companies don't want to take risks. They want to make what sells. And for a long time, a lot of the people, the big game when we were kids was not Tetris. It was GoldenEye, and then it was Halo, and then it was Call of Duty, or Star Wars games, where you run around and shoot stuff. So for the past 20 years, instead of getting defeat the monkey by jumping over barrels, we've been getting shoot stuff games, because shoot stuff has been popular. And until a company can make something that's as guaranteed to make money as shoot stuff is, then we're going to get a lot of shoot stuff games. And that's not great. It is...
I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Is this, do you think, sort of what has happened in, like, movies and film? Because there was a certain brand of action film that everybody knew was going to make money, and then it's like producers don't want to put money into, like, an indie film that they don't know is going to make money. And so they're much less willing to take a risk with that.
Well, that's why we get so many sequels.
Like a movie that doesn't follow the recipe.
Yeah, that's why we get so many sequels and stuff.
What is the way out of this? More producers, maybe? More producers that are willing to take risks?
I suppose that's part of it.
What is this doing that it's like scanning whether or not they're like male or female? I'm sorry to interrupt the game.
That because I needed to check. Yep, looks male.
Okay. I didn't know that that was part of the game.
Yes. You clearly have not played very
like,
much Papers, Please.
No, not very much. Basically, my brother bought it on like Steam sale, and he's like, "Chicory, you have to play this video game." And I was like, "Okay." And so I played it, and then he's like, "This is boring. Let's do something. I'm tired of watching you play this video game."
Sounds about right.
Like, what? I'm having fun here. And he's like, "Nope, we're done. Let's go somewhere." And I was like, "Okay, let's go."
Sounds about right.
It sounds pretty par for the course.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I think that that's something great about, you know, YouTube and Steam sales and blah blah blah, is that it's you can have movies and things that are not along the Hollywood thing, not along the Hollywood script.
Well, crowdfunding really has a lot of power towards that.
Yeah.
Forge
Although movies like...
I was not paying attention.
Last warning, no penalty. Movies like Furiosa are still really cool because they did have all of the, or a lot of the Hollywood funding and a lot of the Hollywood like hype.
Well, but the original Mad Max was made in Australia and would never get made in Hollywood today.
No.
The problem is that Hollywood has stopped making those types of films, and it really annoys me because I like those types of films. Jaws probably wouldn't get made today. We'd never have a blockbuster. Steven Spielberg was an unknown at the time.
That's fair. It's weird to think about Steven Spielberg as an unknown.
Yeah.
Ah, that's me!
Haha.
Zero. Stop it! I'm supposed to be a tiny figure in the corner of the screen, and that's all.
I was going to ask, do you want to wrap it up on this slightly rambling episode?
Yeah.
Good job keeping us on time.
Hey,
what are your final thoughts?
Like 4 things talked about. That's good. We had a 5th thing, but we didn't get to it. We'll get to it next week.
It's always good to have more to talk about.
Yeah, 5 things is a lot. Yeah, gay marriage, woo! Marriage equality, absolutely. Awesome. I think it's important. For whatever that's worth. Confederate flag. It should never have been on governmental land to begin with. I don't know why it was. That's ridiculous. I don't know, an equally rambling summation, I think is just...
I'm glad you have so many thoughts and opinions about the stuff you had thoughts and opinions about.
I know, right? The thing is that they're not... I feel like past weeks, I've like been forming my thoughts and opinions sort of as we've been talking about it, like over the course of the thing, which is why we were talking about bigger sort of things. This week is much more finite, and thus it's easier for me to be like, here's my thought and opinion, whatever. Take it for what you will. Burning churches.
So
acts.
give us the thumbs up or thumbs down on the 4 things we talked about. Okay.
Marriage equality, 2 thumbs up. Woo! Confederate flag being a topic of discussion, 1 thumb up and 1 thumb down because it's bad that people were lied to in school. It's stupid and bad. Like, that's really, really bad. And I feel like that issue is not being talked about enough. That we should restructure, obviously, how civil rights movement and Confederacy is being taught in school because it's not being taught correctly.
Especially the civil rights movement.
Yeah. 2 big thumbs down for burning down fucking churches. Obviously terrorism. Obviously, sort of in response to all of this talk that has been given over the last several months of police brutality to black people and people in general, and all of the attention I think that race has been given, that racism is still a thing in America. Somebody was not super chill with that being still talked about. So, big thumbs down for that. Big thumbs up for small time places and encouraging games to not have to use violence, and that encouragement to not do that anymore. That you can do other things. It's okay to do other things. Oops. Yeah.
Sounds good.
0?
Innovation in gaming, good.
And then innovation in gaming, very good. Innovation in teaching would be good too. I think that's probably my takeaway, is that...
It is kind of weird to think that the Civil War, in the theory that history is treated history is written by the winners is one of the few wars where history seems to be written by the traitors who lost it, because they don't want to be seen as bad people.
How dare we think of slave traders as bad people, slave owners as bad people? Why in the world would we do that?
You know, someday people are going to look back on a ton of stuff we did during this period of time and think the same thing.
That's fair. I think that's totally just. And hopefully they're thinking, like, why did it take us so long to realize this? And how are we, you know, treating people so poorly, instead of why did they make the mistake of legalizing or equalizing marriage and blah, blah, blah.
Well, the arc of history, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, bends towards justice. It's just a really long arc sometimes.
It is a long arc. But that's such a hopeful thing to say. I hope that he's right and things continue to get better and better, but we have to, you know, talk about things and deal with things and put effort towards things before we can do that. And every little bit of that helps, I think.
Yeah, I guess if we want to shorten the arc, then we need to put some effort into it. And we're trying, and I want to encourage everyone else to try. And if you want to talk with us about it, how do they get a hold of us, Chicory?
Please, we've disabled comments on the YouTube, but you can tweet with us, and we will answer you totally, at 123Chicory and 0 Utopia, respectively. 0
and
0
please,
Utopia, me being
yes.
Chicory. And please like and subscribe.
Nailed it.
To our YouTube. Yeah! Woo!
Thanks for listening to this episode.
So much. Thanks for listening. Okay. Bye.
Bye.